Hi everybody, my name is Garett. I'm Troon Vineyard's Director of Agriculture, and 1 week ago we hosted our first ever fall biodynamic preparation making gathering here at Troon. And we did this for a couple of reasons. One, just very practically to make all of our preparations for the upcoming 2024 season, and two, to really catalyze the formation of a Southern Oregon chapter of a Biodynamic prep making group. And so in addition to local community members and farmers, we were joined by Marjory, a member of the Oregon Biodynamic group. She's the board chair for the Biodynamic Demeter Alliance, and she's also a biodynamic farmer herself in Cottage Grove. In addition to all of that, she's also teaching farming and gardening as a professor at the University of Oregon. We're very grateful to have her down for this experience. So please join us for a look at the gathering. Attention for a moment. I'm Garett Long. I'm Troon's Director of Agriculture. I've been here for the last 2 years, and we're very grateful for Marjory to join us all the way down from Cottage Grove. She's a very active participant and leader of the Oregon Biodynamic group, which is much more active in the Willamette Valley all the way down to Eugene. How else to describe you? Consultant, farmer, chair of the BDA. Has been doing this for a while now, and we're very blessed to have her and her knowledge and her experience with prep making, especially in biodynamics in general, help guide us through today. I was confessing to Marjory this morning that I have attended fall prep making gatherings. I've never hosted one or co-hosted, so I'm leaning heavily on her to do this sort of introduction and guidance, and we'll both be kind of chiming in. We really welcome participation in many forms. I put this in my email, but hands-on questions, discussion, we really invite that. That's part of the intention of this gathering today. Really excited to have this event be a connection point for all of us, a touch point to be able to gather again seasonally, to make preps together, to do more educational workshops and all of that. And we're very excited to kind of kick off our fall gathering. I'll pass it to Marjory in just a sec. I just wanted to say a quick introduction about Troon and the space that we're in right now as well. We're in the biodynamic education garden. So we've planted many of our prep plants, like our yarrow, stinging nettle, valerian are here behind us. We have several of our preparation pits where we bury the preps here in this garden as well. And then the rest of it is a beautiful perennial flower garden, supportive pollinators and other beneficial insects. And it's a place where people can walk, just steps from the tasting room and kind of self-tour, read some of the educational signage, and learn about biodynamics and the preparations. And so we'll spend some time here today. So we're here in this education garden. We'll also spend some time in the building behind us, which we call the fertility barn. That's our main pump house and irrigation hub, but we also are making vermicompost and brewing vermicompost tea in there. We've got all of our storage for our preparations in that building as well, and then a workspace where we'll be making some of the preps today. In general, Troon is a 100-acre farm and vineyard. About half of that acreage is planted in grapes and wine grapes. We're all together collectively managing this 100-acre farm. We are rotationally grazing sheep and chickens throughout the whole farm. We've got an almost 2-acre cider apple orchard. We've got a vegetable garden, a permaculture-style food forest that we just planted this spring. We're making about 250 tons of finished compost a year, more than 10 acres of biodiversity reserve and wildlife habitat here. And all together, this is a certified Demeter certified biodynamic farm, as well as a regenerative organic certified farm at the gold level, which we just achieved earlier this year, and we're very proud of both of those certifications, which amount to really the highest bar standard of any certification program in the world. I think with that sort of scene set, we wanted to welcome you guys, and of course welcome Marjory to.
Thank you.
I'm going to pass it on.
Thanks. So I started making preparations with the Oregon Biodynamic group in 2006, but in 1999 I had at that point read the agriculture course and thought that I discovered some lost farming art. And then lo and behold, after going to the Pfeiffer Center in New York and Hawthorne Valley, I found out that there was a very strong biodynamic group in Oregon that has been going since 1975 is when it was started. And that was the year I was born. So it was kind of, fortuitous that I'd already been to the biodynamic farm. I didn't realize when I read the agriculture course that what Steiner was talking about was called biodynamics, because he doesn't call that in the lectures. And so it wasn't until I went to New York that it was pointed out to me. And so then at that point I had attempted to make all of the preparations on my own, and all the things that I did were really, really laughable. So, and then I learned later how to do it, and I've had some really wonderful mentors, Heike Marie Eubanks and Wally Villa, who owns Wintergreen Farm. They've been my mentors and then so many workshop people that I've taken workshops from, also as mentors, and then I belong to the Fellowship of Preparation Makers, so that I've been part of that now for 6 years, I think. And that is a group of preparation makers from around the country, and we meet once a month on a phone call and talk about our preparation making and compare and talk about the weather. And we talk about the biodynamic impulse in the world and in the United States. And so every other one call will be talking about the social aspects and the impulse, and then the next call will be about preparation making. And so I used to be the only woman on that call. Laura Riccardi Rickers from Kentucky used to be on the call. She would come in once in a while, and so it was just a bunch of old white guys on there that were very old-fashioned about biodynamics. And so I sort of had to just hold my ground and stick with it. And now we have several women on the call every month, and new young people coming on the call with a younger impulse. And there's certainly a lot of learning from everyone. We all make preparations. Hugh Courtney, who was one of the oldest preparation makers in the country, used to be on the call consistently, and so we've learned from him, and it's just been a really good way to compare our preparation making and see what everybody does. And then on top of that, I hold the preparation maker's seat on the Demeter board and the chair of the Alliance, and was part of the CBO, which helped create the Demeter Alliance, the Biodynamic Demeter Alliance, which is the BDA and Demeter and now an economic sphere to help promote biodynamics. And then I just started teaching farming and gardening at the U of O this last fall. So, and then I have an apple farm on top of that. And I also work at a feed store to get my discount on seeds and cover crops and animal feed and fermentation supplies. And so I just fill in there whenever they need it. It's kind of my local family to Cottage Grove. And so I'm a very busy person. Mm-hmm. And this is, it just dawned on me at some point in my life. I realized that people didn't have the same upbringing of growing food and eating seasonal and preserving food, and then stumbled upon biodynamics. When my grandfather passed away, he gave me a bucket of crystals and a cast iron mortar and pestle and a little white arrowhead, and all the other kids got pocket watches and clocks and gold pieces. And he, I think, knew that I was not going to be concerned too much with time or money. So he gave me what he felt was going to be what I was going to do. And so my grandfather was the second largest wool grower in the United States and sold to Pendleton Woolen Mills. Wow. And then my other grandparents had a dairy farm both in Idaho. And I'm a fourth generation Oregonian. I was born here, but mostly raised in Idaho. So at some point I just realized that wasn't the same kind of upbringing that everyone had. And then I decided that I wanted to teach gardening and food preservation. And then coming into biodynamics, I decided that that's probably something I should teach as well and learn. And I'm constantly learning from the whole process, and it's humbling to always be learning, you know, but I've had great mentors, really great mentors. So I'm glad that you all are here to come and learn. Biodynamics is such a wonderful practice because you're really helping the soil to assist the plants in uptaking nutrition. And when a plant has that nutrition, it's going to have more flavor. That's why it's so big in the wine world, because it really taps into the terroir and the minerals that are present in the soil there. And then you get more of a flavor profile from having that nutrition in the plant. But you also get that in your vegetables too. And you can taste it. You can absolutely taste the difference. No doubt. If you taste a biodynamic carrot compared to a conventionally grown or just even organically grown carrot, and if you had a taste test, you would definitely be able to. So when you get that nutrition, then you can think more clear, and there's just a difference in how your thinking is and your willing. And so I think that I really feel like everyone should have access to that in the world. It would make a very different world if that was the case. So the point is I hope that this kind of farming can grow. And, farming used to be, it's like we started out with folk farming, and then we went to the Industrial Revolution and using chemical agriculture and over-tilling the soil. And now we've come back to folk farming, but we have the science to back it up. And so that is now the crucial piece, is to make bridges with thinking, with that science to back it all up.
Yeah.
And then of course, biodynamics is called spiritual farming, but I try not to talk about that piece, because I feel like when you do the biodynamics and you eat the food, then that piece comes, and it's a very individual thing. It's an individual practice. And so you can't help but come onto a biodynamic farm or winery and feel the energy, of course, but that's up to the individual. And so I like to just speak to what it's doing. Let's bring in some of the science and talk about that piece. And then as you do it, they say that the more that you practice biodynamics, the more that biodynamics works on you with that other aspect.
Yeah.
So
I'm putting you guys to work today, in case you didn't notice. That's the encouragement of the participatory workshop, is for you to help us get all of this heavy lift of annual prep making done. So we've got a bunch of half wine barrels that are planted in horsetail or equisedum, which is brewed into a tea and applied as 508. That equisedum tea or horsetail tea is one of the other preparations. And I think there's a lot of potential for increasing our use of that, especially in the vineyard where powdery mildew and fungus is such a concern. 508 and the high silica content is a really great partner in that regard. And then I think lastly, correct me if I'm wrong, we're going to do barrel compost as well. We've got our barrel compost pits right behind us, and that involves an hour-long process of stirring or mixing the manure along with eggshells, rock dust, and we're going to try something new this year, which is to also incorporate fresh nettles and equisedum into that barrel compost as well. And I'll let Marjory explain. I think we'll all kind of be contributing to the explanation of who and what and where and why and animal and plant parts and mineral, all that sort of alchemy.
And then I brought you all a cow skull. It's been used once, but you can use them a couple times. You grind up oak bark, usually your local oaks, and stuff that into the cavity of the skull. And then you put it somewhere where water is running. Mm-hmm. And not too fast, though, because it can wash the oak bark out. And then that one helps plants to assist them in bringing up calcium. So that water washing through is washing out all the tannins. And then what you're left with is the calcium bacteria fungal aspect that assists plants in mining calcium from the soil.
So I probably do a better job telling you what we're not doing today as far as all of the preps. We have a pretty big agenda for today. So I think it'll be really cool to have all of these stations set up and people engaged and actively working on it, and then sort of cycling through. And again, like I said, asking questions. You know, we have a ton of experience here in the room, on the farm. So yeah, please follow your heart and ask questions and get involved in the preps that are most exciting to you.
Yeah, you want, for making 500, you want as fresh as possible and without bedding in it. Compost, that takes about an hour. So people
pop
can
in there and
rotate
help.
out. You can come and tag someone and then go in and do it. That is such a long process, so
It's good to get started.
yeah.
I'll come in and help get the shovels.
To people, public, I used to be able to buy.
No.
Good question.
That's a really good question. Garett would know.
Yeah, they used to be online, but
Okay.
then
Huh.
I couldn't find them anymore after the last couple of years.
Huh. I don't know.
Yeah, Garett would probably have the answer.
Yeah. Only pick
Yeah, that's actually a good idea.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Wow.
She said maybe you could have one like maybe
Open certain bottles on certain.
it depends on how much interest there is in grants, but like where people are, we could kind of rotate through.
Yeah. And I do notice, like sometimes
We have like a little, library here at the
Yeah, exactly.
there's a tasting room, and I found it for me. It's
Knock that out.
All
We
right,
can
well,
get these
let's
guys
keep
stirring.
on that and then keep doing that, and then when it's slowing down, we'll come and give that demonstration. That
Perfect.
way.
I'll
And plus,
go
The yellow jackets
Yeah.
are gonna be kind of bad. I already got stung, but
today. Just now? Oh
a
no.
while ago, yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. You
It's totally
okay?
fine. No, I'm totally fine. Yeah.
Well, we've got this
Allergic,
fan
so-
that we can set up too. I thought just blowing air past this workbench was going to be ideal. So we can plug in that fan, and then I'll go grab the nettle. These are for these guys to stir with. The rock dust and the eggshells are in there.
Okay.
What else do we need?
The nettle.
The nettle.
Equisetum.
Do you
And
want
if
to?
you have clippers. Well, I have some clippers.
Yeah. And I'm going to grab my pruners too, but if you wanted to grab any of the equisetum there.
Totally. Well, hopefully. Yeah, that can backfire. So yeah, you're just chopping it up. And since you have gloves, you can just grab a big bunch and just chop, chop, chop.
All right. You're the chopper, I'm the scooper, huh? All right.
Yeah, do you want to take Sheila's place so she can take notes?
So your goal is to basically spread out, chop and spread out. You kind of like work around the circle
You
doing
might
that.
want to get a pen if you have one.
Would you ever want to stuff something like this into a horn? Or this would only be interesting.
So actually our group, because we get manure from multiple sources, we do this to the manure to homogenize it from all the different sources, because some
Before
people's
stuffing
like
it.
a little wetter and some people's is a little bit drier. So we do this we don't add anything to it. We just we just stir it. And then there's another thing that's called prepared
He sent
500.
them an overnight
And
mail
so
earlier
what
this
you
week.
do is you put the manure in the
It's a last
horn,
minute thing.
and then when it's finished, then you dig it up, you put it in your crock, and then you put
Yeah.
preps in that. And so that is a
I
really
don't,
popular
but
thing.
from
It's like a
Iroquois.
Podolinsky
supplies.
European.
Anyways, that is just chunkers, so I'm gonna try to spread them out. Carly's getting in here. Carly! So you can either sub me out on the chopping or Yoma out on the flopping. So you can choose. You can see we're just kind of like working with each other rhythmically. So when I pop, I go in the middle.
You can also just go down to the bottom like a sock and stuff from the bottom. And then work your way up. That actually works a little bit easier. It's hard to know.
stuffing and testing. Yeah, I would love to.
And no pressure as well, but we do have these little dowels that we made.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Handle, an old mop handle.
That works great.
And there's a second one over here as well. If you like. Oops, sorry. Sure. Thank you.
He's like, but it smells like dog heaven.
Okay, who wants to jump in here?
I think Yona wants. You want to get
Yeah, I'd love to.
Okay, so you're just taking a little bunch and putting it in there like that, and just stuffing it down with your thumb, and then you can use this dowel, or you can just use your finger to stuff it down in more, and you make it sausages. So each of these is already cut into a length, and it's tied with a string on the bottom, so don't push too hard that's going to come off.
Okay.
That we used for the yarrow as well. These two might be good for you guys.
Too, especially if you have a chopstick. I like to use chopsticks.
That would be great. Maybe the back of those would dowel the spoons, actually. If you want to use that, John, you're welcome to. I'll bring out some spoons.
How's the funnel work?
I think it works pretty good. I want to try it out and see what
I'm going to do this, and I sit on the back of your truck by the compost pile. And I actually do have a video of that, of how to get the bladder out, because it's behind the pelvic bone, and you just
we need some help.
you follow the urethra up, and then from there, you really want to try not to puncture it if you're using sharp tools, because then you have to sew it up, and that's kind of a pain. And also, it's really hard to dry it. So what we do is, so most of these come from a butcher actually in Myrtle Point. And so Heike Marie, she's taught the butcher. Believe it or not, there are hunters that don't dress their deer in the field. They bring it to the butcher. And so, right? So that's where we get a majority of them. So Heike Marie's gone there and she's taught them how to do it. And the butcher's really good at getting it out. And he gets it out, and then she takes it home, and you put a balloon in it and a straw, and you blow up the balloon.
How thick is it?
You know, so you blow it up with a balloon, and then tie it off with a string and dry it, and then put it in storage, and we just keep it in storage. And then in the summer, you take that out, and you want to do it before 21st of June, ideally, so you're capturing all that summer warmth.
You're a little bit late.
And so you stuff it in there. I like to use a funnel with a chopstick.
So is it brittle when it dries? I mean, it seems like it's
No, it's like
vellum kind of
so
sort of.
yeah, when after it's dried, you want to make a tea with yarrow leaves, and then you re-moisten it.
Okay.
And then it's elastic.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like super pliable, and then
like a
you're
wire.
just
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. So you're just stuffing as much. You won't believe how much yarrow you can fit in one of these. Like, this is probably 2 gallons of yarrow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because it's so pliable. So you're stuffing, and you're just really pushing out and trying not to puncture it, but really filling it as much as possible.
Before it dries, it's bigger than that? Or is it
A
the
little
size?
bit,
Okay.
not much bigger. Yeah.
Yeah, just a tight with some of the string. And then it goes through that secondary drying process, which is we put it outside on this shelf that gets sunlight, for as long as possible. Ideally from June on. Ours was more like July. I forget, July, maybe even early August when you sent those to us. So we got them out a little late, but that's the part that I would love some help understanding and appreciating as well, is sort of what impact that sort of solar energy has on the prep. What is that purpose of hanging it to try to capture that energy before the burial?
So we hang them up in a sunny place in the apple tree, and so you're using these plants that are very sun oriented. And you think of the umbel of the yarrow, and what yarrow does for the body is similar what it's going to do for the soil. So all of these plants are things that you could use medicinally on your body, and they have a similar effect on the soil as they have on your body. So yarrow is astringent, and it's drying. It also is a diuretic in the body, so makes you go pee. It works through the kidneys, is digested through the kidneys, and then you're using the bladder, so it's digested through the kidneys, and then that umbel is, it's also helps plants fix potassium. And potassium is what you are peeing out, you know, when you use a diuretic. So this particular one is going to help plants mine potassium from the soil. If you get a soil test in Oregon, it's going to tell you, like a chemical soil test in Oregon is going to tell you that the soil is really full of potassium.
We have an opposite
But
problem here.
it's locked up
Yeah.
and it's not actually available. So this is going to help your plants to mine that potassium and make it available to the plants. So each of these preparations, when you have a rotting animal part, you get bacteria. When you have a rotting plant part, you get fungus. And when you're building compost, you have a soil aggregate, and that's either sand, silica, or clay. And what happens in the compost pile is that a bacteria will attach to that soil particle, and it will wait for the symbiotic bacteria or fungus. So say your soil particle, bacteria attaches and waits for the symbiotic fungus to attach. And then when you get that symbiosis of bacteria and fungus, then that's when all the life starts to happen. The macrofauna, the microfauna, the ciliates, the nematodes, and then the worms, the macrofauna comes in, and the centipedes and the beetles. And then that's when it grows the hyphae. And so there's a bacteria in soil called Actinomycetes. It's a bacteria that's classified as a fungus, so it acts like a fungus. It's not necessarily classified as bacteria, it's not necessarily classified as fungus, but that hyphae grows out, and that comes with the microfauna and the macrofauna, and that's how you build good, fluffy, spongy soil. And that's what you want. You want all of that activity in there, that life, that inner life. So you're literally creating inner life in your compost pile. So each of these has an animal part and a plant part. So you're creating these perfect symbiotic bacterial fungal combinations. When you build a compost pile that becomes stagnant and has like too much of one thing, you'll get anaerobic bacteria. And what you want to be creating is aerobic bacteria. And these combinations help to create that beneficial bacteria and fungus. And if we had more research, we would be able to look at some of this stuff. So right now, it's just sort of hearsay. It's like, well, this is what's going on. You know, we're intuiting. Now we have the science
Just to
back
use
up
what's
the folklore,
available.
right?
Probably only one, two more.
Through learning about soil food web and how soil is built. And then we just need more research now. So we have to start asking the right questions, you know, about what's happening in the soil.
Hey, that was
in order to get
excellent
there.
explanation.
Okay,
All
good.
around. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That was very
Bury it, or so when you bury this, because I don't know, where do you want to put it?
I would
where
like
it's
to
gonna
check
have
it out with
water?
you. We've got a big, like,
Okay.
2.5 acre lake or pond down at the bottom of the property, and it has an overflow where, you know, if we get a good winter rain, there will be running water during part of the season,
Okay.
and it'll just be sort of a wetland, sort of spring fed.
Okay, that's perfect.
It's the best we got. The area is super clay.
So when we take it down there, then we'll kind of seal up the rest. I'm keeping this plug in here.
Okay.
If we can find one more stick
Sure.
to go right here to kind of help plug up this little space right here.
Definitely.
And that would kind
Do
of
we want to
be
do it
ideal.
now or just when we're down there?
When we're down there is fine.
Okay.
So this one,
Okay.
this is pretty easy. This is, it looks like soil, but it's oak bark that's been already ground up. It's actually almost already transformed.
You put it through like a meat grinder
a grain grinder, yeah.
or grain grinder.
So
Thank you.
yeah, so you'll use that to kind of stuff it in there when it's done. This should be almost exactly enough to go in there. Okay,
Beautiful.
go ahead and stuff it down in there. Ideally, it would be completely full. And this is, so Steiner says use it from Quercus alba, which is the white oak. We use the oak that's around here. Not exactly sure. Maybe somebody knows if it's Quercus alba or Quercus rubra.
Quercus organa here is a white.
Organa? Yeah. Okay. Well, that's what we use for this preparation. And you grind it up.
Pretty tight?
Yeah, because when the water starts flowing through it, that's why you want to seal up all the holes with really good packed clay around there.
Okay.
Oh, carry on.
Otherwise, it'll just wash right through.
Okay. Cool.
And then we'll just put the plug in like that.
Okay.
And like I said, ideally, if it was full, it would be a little bit better, but
Cool.
we'll just do that. And then when we take it down there, whoa, we really want to pack it good with clay so it's not gonna get loose. I even actually think, like, well, let's look at your spot.
Yeah.
But I think that you should go ahead and harvest some more oak bark and get a grain grinder and fill this with more and then fill that and
Sure.
then just do it all at once.
Cool.
And I'm willing to look at your spot, but
Cool.
I think that that would be more ideal to really have a nice full thing, and then you can find the appropriate sticks to
Yeah.
seal up your holes and stuff so that it doesn't flow out. Because we have dug up skulls, the Oregon Biodynamic group has dug up skulls, and the contents are washed out. Like if there's not enough plugs or something surrounding it to not let it wash out.
Cool.
So basically with this one, you're taking the oak bark, and it's somewhere where water is running, and so that's washing out all the tannins in the oak bark, and with what you're left is the calcium of the oak bark, and then that is assisting plants to uptake calcium.
Yeah.
Exactly. If your dandelion, when you dry it, gets too fluffy, you want to pull those out. If all the yellow bits come off and it's this fluff ball, and that's why it's really important to harvest the dandelion when you have that tight bullseye center. I don't think these are pretty much all perfect. Otherwise, I don't think there's any that have fluffed out in here. So good job.
The first year
So
was not
that's like
that?
on the edge.
Yeah.
You know, but if all that yellow was gone, then we
Toss
would
it.
pull it. But this is, otherwise it's great. It's really good. So then what we're gonna do is take this tea that we've made with dandelion leaves, and we're going to just put a little bit. I've gotten in trouble for putting too much from my mentor. And then we're just going to moisten that with our hands until we don't see any moisture on the bottom. If we see moisture on the bottom, we've put too much.
And the feel of the blossom is it's just rehydrated. It's
Yeah.
more
no.
pliable.
Yep. So, sticking together a little bit, just like good soil
Yeah.
when you go out and test it in the spring. Okay, so we are going to, that's ready. And then this is the,
Let's make some space for you. Let's move these up.
this is actually, so Steiner says use the mesentery, and this is actually the peritoneum or the caul fat. Like if you went to a butcher and asked, and this was, Wally just pointed this out. We've known that there's a difference between mesentery and peritoneum for a while. Most preparation makers use the peritoneum, but it's also called the caul, and it is the sheath that surrounds the organs in the cow. And so it's folded specifically like this so that the inside of that was actually holding the organs is on the inside, because that's where you're going to want to put the dandelion flowers. And this is, we're not going to use this whole thing, but this is from Wintergreen Farm, and their cows are kind of fat and fatty, and normally we would warm this up. I chose this piece in particular because we don't need to take all the fat out. But Wintergreen Farm, we will set up a table and we'll take a pot scraper. I think we're one of the only preparation making groups in the country that takes the fat out. So you're taking the fat out between these two very, very, very thin layers here. Mm-hmm. And it's a really kind of a tedious process because I like to use the side of my thumb to pull it out. I'm not going to be able to do it because it's not warmed up. You need warm water. So we would make a dandelion tea or have a pot of warm water on the table. I'm just going to show you a demonstration. And that warm water will just help the fat to come out of the edges. So then once you have a piece that has all the fat taken out, then we're going to make a package. But I'm just going to use the thinnest part of this. And let's see.
Just real quickly as an example, this was some of the 506 that we prepared last year and just dug up recently and did not scrape the fat out of it. And you can see these little white bits are the fat that doesn't break down. This also, I have this separated because it needs to be sieved. There's a lot of plant roots that had grown into our pit, which was not ideal, but all of these little white bits are the fat that just doesn't break down and could maybe just be seen as like a contaminant to the quality of the prep. So it's not something that I've done before too, but I think will definitely help improve quality.
But what I found out just this last year is if you let that fat dry out. So what I like to do now is if it's not completely broke down, I just put it in the pot of dandelion prep in the storage unit. And it will further kind of break down in that storage. And for the fellowship conference this year in Pennsylvania, I purposely took a chunk of that just to see, because we do a sensory test where everyone goes around and looks at it and says, oh, I would use this, or oh, it's good, or it's bad. Most people don't say that there's a bad prep. There's no bad preps. But I just wanted to see what people would do. But in this room, it was super dry, and there was a heating unit in there. And over the time that we were there, all of everyone's preparations dried out really, really like dust. And that fat dried out, and it just crumbled. And so, maybe just letting it dry out a little bit, and then putting it back in again. We're always learning and researching and figuring it out. So if you have pieces of fat, when you dig this up, just go ahead and take those pieces and put them in your crock of your preparation. Cool. Don't use that specifically, but just keep it in there and it will break down further.
Marjory, should we set up that fan for these flies?
No, the flies are, if there was yellow jackets, I would say yeah.
Okay. I'm going to run and grab some of the compost for... We have...
This is like really
nice. Is
nice.
that one empty?
Thin,
yeah,
that's what you want right
just
there.
This a random smattering.
Over here that's kind of fat. I might kind of cut that off a little bit. So... Ouch. And that's what it's going to look like. We're going to bury that and it will ferment. When we go and make the barrel compost, I will show you what each of these preparations looks like when it's... And so that's all you do. And we'll stick it in a pot, put it in the ground, and let it do its thing. So the idea is you don't want too much of that thick fat. You want it to, also, when you're making your package, don't overlay too many layers of fat on one side, but it should look like that. And that's it.
Cool. Cool. I have to be a better,
I think so. At the time when I was there too, they were Hawaii has been Varroa free for a very long time. Yeah. Till right about when I was doing that. So we were trying to figure out the Varroa thing. when I was there, which was, I think, helpful for him to have somebody who has an agricultural background. Which is like sort of treatments and stuff, because Hawaii was like the paradise of beekeeping. Like, there's no diseases, there's no varroa, like, there's no winter.
Now they have a small hive beetle, though.
Yeah, they have.
So I'd rather be here.
I think both of those things happen.
Dairy cows, that's important because grass-fed manure has more lignin proteins in it, and that's what plants need to help uptake nutrients. When this transforms, it should have a colloidal smear, much like a moist worm castings, and it's basically a humic acid with a relationship to silica. So a biological silica from the horn. When you pull it out, you'll see all this really nice bacteria on the inside, and they get buried so that they're turned down a little bit so that they don't fill up with water in the wintertime. It will get brought up in about May. And so then this is your base spray. It's a ground spray. It's not a compost prep. So all those other ones that we made earlier are all compost preparations, and each one of those goes into the compost pile. And this one is one of the spray preparations. So this is what you start with. So being that it's humic acid with a relationship with silica, it's going to help stimulate the microbes in the soil when you spray it out. And this one you want to hand stir for an hour, or what's called a German stir, where you stir it until you see a white foam. When you start to see a white foam, that indicates that your anaerobic bacteria has transformed to aerobic bacteria, and that it's full of good aerobic bacteria. And then when you spray it out, you generally don't want to have it through a fine mister, you want it through big drops. So if you're using a tractor sprayer, you want to have all of your lines really wide open. I even just take the sprayers off and so that it flows freely. You also want to monitor your filters when you're using any kind of a tractor sprayer. Otherwise, if you're just a gardener or you have a small space, just doing it stirring it in a bucket and then whisking it out with big drops works really well too. This is a great community event. If you want to have people come out and say you do a big stirring and then you pour a bunch in little buckets and everyone goes down a row and sprays the whole thing. I've helped do big vineyards where everyone just takes a few rows and you just keep going out and spraying. So it's kind of can be fun like that. But if you really need to just get the job done, then putting it in your sprayer and opening up all the valves so you get nice big droplets in there to spray it out. Yeah, so you want to have high volume, low pressure. So if you use a pump, make sure it's a pump that has a high volume, low pressure, because you don't want the pressure to affect the microbes in here. Okay, so we're going to make a layer on the bottom. Something that someone mentioned to me, I posted a picture on Facebook with the pit, and it wasn't really pretty or beautiful. And there's a very experienced preparation maker named Ferdinand Bondruska from Canada, and he said, you want to make your pit have some aesthetic quality to it and make it look pretty, and then that also kind of affects your intention with your preparation. So we will put a whole layer on the bottom, and then we'll put a little soil on. You also, when you bury them, you don't really want them to touch because that affects how they transform. So.
Meaning you want soil in between each horn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So guide me. What is aesthetically beautiful here? This way, this way.
I tend to start on the outside and put them in a circle, or from the inside. You
Like
could
this?
start.
Or the other way? Like that?
It's either whatever your aesthetic is.
Druid spiral.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's how I tend to do, is a spiral, starting on the inside or the outside, and just putting them around just so they don't touch.
Something like this.
Yeah. There's no right or wrong way. And everyone's going to have their preference.
Yeah, that one's
But if we're going to take Ferdinand's advice, it's going to look pretty.
Yeah, they're pretty great names. Take us advice.
Right?
So I'll just do a few, and then if anybody else wants to jump in here, I think that would be fun. Well, I'm just setting the rhythm here. Everybody else can follow suit. Marjory, there are some bull horns.
No, that's not a bullhorn. It's just new.
Okay.
You can tell, so that's another thing is we use cow horns.
Anybody else want to jump in here?
Because my opinion, and again we need research, is that there's a hormone in not just the manure, but the cow horn itself. You can tell a bullhorn from a cow horn because of these rings. Whenever they have a baby, or if they're lactating, they get rings on their horns.
Versus this would be a bullhorn. Yeah?
That is possibly a cow horn.
Okay.
Maybe just a younger cow that maybe hasn't had a baby yet. So a lot of these come from Brian Wickert in Wisconsin, and Brian sources them from slaughterhouses. And the slaughterhouses are usually from grass-fed cows, where the farmer brings it to the slaughterhouse to be processed. And so then he goes through them and pulls out any bull horns. There's little stickers that say there's no bull in biodynamics.
Except for breeding purposes. Then there better be a bull.
Yeah.
None of this AI stuff.
Doesn't fit on a bumper sticker there.
Yeah, I know. No exceptions.
You're running out of foot space.
Yeah, as soon as you feel like there's enough on there, I usually just lay on the side of the pit and stick them in. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's enough people here that if somebody wants to do that.
Yep.
I already did it this year.
That's right, we're going to bury them next. Don't worry about that little bit of...
I just don't want them to be facing up.
Right. Perfect.
And maybe one more.
Okay. And then let's count how many's on there, or someone take a picture also. And then
that
that
would
way
be
we can
easier.
put it on our notes. On the record keeping. Record keeping is a good idea. So the Oregon group, I don't really know too many other groups that keep a record like we do. That was started by Heike Marie probably 35, 40 years ago. So we have about 40 years of record keeping every year. That if anybody wants to do a research project, there's information. I think we could fit one more in there. Let's try to get as many in there as possible.
Yeah, we've got about 70 horns altogether that we'd like to do.
So yeah, let's see.
Oh, thank you.
You're like, huh?
Yeah.
Getting smaller, Yeah.
There you go.
Cool. Is that 25-ish?
Now, with additional 24. So it's 27 or 28?
So if somebody wants to lay down on that side and do that half and kind of keep them in a similar pattern.
Marjory, you said you were going to avoid laying down.
I know. I forgot I had a coat though. I just didn't want to get my dress dirty. But now I have a coat. So.
Thank you.
Exactly. I still have to drive home tonight and be decent on the road. Nobody will want to be like, what the heck were you doing? I did this before going to my first meeting at the U of O for teaching. And, I came in and I was really dirty, but nobody asked any questions. So.
That's too bad.
Gave him the look. Don't ask.
How many are left?
I think our aesthetics are questionable, but I feel good about it.
12. Okay. Let's turn that one that's there. Turn it this way. Yeah. So it's kind of going in a flow around.
Oh, thank you. Enliven that both biologically and energetically, kind of put that good work into that intention into this pit that we desire for these horns to transform in that way. So we're not adding more compost this year or at this moment, but that is one thing we would do to prepare a new pit. Dan?
Hi, just missed it.
No, you're here. You're here. Glad you can make it. There's still more to do.
And then are you going to do another layer then?
That's all. That's it for the horns. There are several more preps that we're going to bury in pits nearby.
Was the sort of
About as wide as it needs to be in order to be about the same depth.
Right.
Probably about,
Just so that the top of the pot is pretty close to the soil surface?
I think a little bit deeper than that, closer to 2 shovels deep again. And
Bit in the bottom of this nice compost, and then I'm gonna stick that in there and throw a little compost around it.
But not really trying to bury it necessarily?
No.
Oh, okay, you're going to put all those in there.
Yep. So we'll put all those in there. And we're gonna put a little bit of mesh over the top.
So the purpose of the clay pot versus going directly in the soil?
That's just to make it so that you can find it easier.
and not lose it all to the soil.
Yeah, exactly.
Easier to extract the actual finished prep.
Right. If it rips in the ground, you use the prep there.
Same thing with this. This is like some plastic, not ideal screen door material. But the same thing, you know, we know that the interior contents of this is our preparation.
Oh, and I was going to say you should put some soil around that.
Ah, okay.
Inside the screen so that the prep is not actually touching the screen.
Okay.
When we go to dig this up in the spring, it'll be really obvious what the prep is because of the, you know, there's so much of it in there.
Sprinkle me.
And then we'll kind of try to get that soil away from that preparation.
So is this compost that's from the farm that you're
Yeah,
around it?
exactly. And it's got the compost preps in it as well. It looked like a good amount, or fully cover it?
Just a little bit more. Yeah, let's make sure you fully cover it so the screen isn't touching it at all.
Yeah. Okay.
That looks good.
It looks almost yummy, like a chocolate brownie or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like a little cake we're gonna bake. And then, do you want to wrap this over the top here, and then tie it with the string tied around here? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tasting so good.
Yeah, did you snip me?
Icing on the top, like I would really have this
Thank
little
you.
layer on the top that was like really, and I would just be like, you have to try it. So good. I had it down, like, I don't even know. It was like rainwater. So
That's awesome.
Okay, that's our little 506 pillow.
506 pillows?
Yeah. Nice for sleeping.
Is there more than one 506 pillow?
No, we only did one this year, which was because we didn't harvest quite enough dandelions. Yeah, oh yeah, you want to go just around the base of it? Or around the top lip, maybe? Or is that too low?
Keep it tight there.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, we went out there and probably harvested dandelions.
It's okay if those touch.
Yeah, these ones, it's
Just a few other things.
totally fine.
Yeah, there were two that needed.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. In the perfect spot of like they've opened up, but just barely. And yeah.
They are. They're pretty. Here's our chamomile sausages. Would you mind holding that?
Certainly.
Okay. And this one I'm just putting in the pot, and then I'll put soil on the bottom and the top. Is all.
And those two can touch each other when they're in there?
Yeah.
The intestine's going to fully decompose and not be discernible from the rest of the preparation.
Yeah. Other than where the strings are.
Yeah, true.
And then this one, we have screen too. Okay, good.
Yeah. A very large piece, actually. We can cut this down if we need to.
And remind me what's in the birch again?
Same as the yarrow blossoms as well.
Yes.
That was the vegan version.
Right.
Why Maria Thun chose birch to pair with yarrow, I'm not sure. I know maple was also oak, bark goes in oak. Larch was one of them, but I can't keep straight which was which.
Okay.
Each tree has a different relationship with the planet. And so she's trying to relate that same essence of that same sheath with the same planet. And I don't know exactly which ones those are, but off the top of my head.
I think it's in your almanac that you brought.
Yeah, so if anyone wants to look it up, it's like, I'm sure that birch resonates with the same planets that resonate with yarrow.
Which escaped me at this moment.
Yeah, me too.
John. Yeah. Where they went.
So basically with all of these preparations is you're making a fermentation. And as we all know, fermentation is good for our body. It's good for our gut. And so these are fermentations that we are giving to the soil. So we eat sauerkraut. The soil eats chamomile prep. You know? So each one has a different role in inoculating the soil with similar biology that, like when you eat fermented stuff.
So we keep yarrow.
And you can't tell each of these preparations when we look at it, when we make the barrel compost, you can't see any of the sheaths anymore. It just looks like soil. You'll be able to see a difference in the color, but definitely not in, it's just this, they're all just beautiful little bits of soil.
And we'll check those out. We'll see the finished preps when we go to bury the barrel compost and add each of the preps to it. You'll get to see that very soily, just humified plant material.
Yeah. So who wants to do the first one? We're going to do the yarrow in this pit. And make sure you note that the yarrow prep is in the northwest corner.
Yes, thank you. Okay, that's probably good. I think this mound will settle a little bit, but to make it proud like that, it's great. 502. And I'm going to put northwest here so that I remember to write that down. Woohoo!
And so there's this, the way that I remember all of them in the order is I say to myself, you can notice organic, dynamic vitality everywhere. And that is yarrow, chamomile, nettle, oak bark, dandelion, dynamic, vitality is valerian, and everywhere is equisetum. And so that's the number also. Nice. That just helps me to remember if I have to. I mean, at this point I know you can notice organic, dynamic vitality everywhere.
I missed dandelion.
Yeah. So next one, so we're going to do 503. So you can chamomile. And that is the one in the pot right there. So
Yeah.
we'll just bury it in exactly the same way. If someone wants to. Volume wise, so we are going to make a double batch, but we're putting 4 units. So 2 from the Oregon group and 2 from Troon. A unit is 0.75 milliliters. It's a very small amount. Valerian helps plants to draw up and fix phosphorus. It's also warming. This is an excellent, so we've used this on our farm since we mostly have apples. We've used it for frost protection. When there was danger of frost, we have either sprayed it in the evening, and it will only just uptick like a degree, but sometimes that's just enough to protect the blossoms from frost. Lloyd Nelson in Colorado has used it on a peach orchard. Frost. He's on the western slope, I believe, and that was in Peonia.
Where it goes.
Wow, they just did such a good job. It's almost like your own compost.
If only we could get them to dig out the pits.
Yeah.
It's wild to me. They
Yeah,
took
it
this
is.
top off for the first time in like 6 months yesterday, and I was like, oh,
Okay.
oh yeah, we got some work to do here.
It's a little bit of a, very common feeling I get.
Yeah.
Opening up irrigation boxes to like turn a valve.
Dump that one in. And then we'll use one of those shovels. Does that shovel have a hole in the end? Yeah, that might not be
This
ideal.
one doesn't. And we also have that.
That, or how about, can we use one of these stakes out there?
Yeah? Oh, yeah, yeah.
Let's use
totally.
that.
Sure. There's one right. He's got it. Should we push it down a little bit?
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to do, is grab a shovel and
Here's a little one if you'd like.
smash it down a little bit. Yep, so since we're making a double batch, we're going to put half in and smash it around until it's flat more or less. Okay. So,
You go in order? Or?
who wants to lay on their belly and pat it down?
Yeah, Joy's like, I'm getting in there.
Nice.
Yes. I love this community.
Good stuff, you all. I got the best job. We're not arm wrestling with us.
So then take that stick there and make a hole in the middle, and then make a hole north, east, south, and west. So there'll be 5 holes altogether.
So you want to do it, or do you want to step up? Okay, we want a
And-
hole in the middle.
Yeah, stick it all the way down there. That's good.
Okay. And then.
And then north, yeah. So it looks like 5 on a deck of cards.
South. East.
And then I'm gonna let you do the honors of putting.
I'll do one.
So we have 4 units. Normally for a double batch you only need 2 units, but we're gonna mix organs with. Here, you want to hold these just for a sec? With the
you gotta do
Troon
the yarrow,
Vineyard.
right?
So
You're the yarrow lady.
nope, I'm not. I mean, yes,
You're
we make it at our
voluntold.
farm,
You're the
but
yarrow lady.
it's not what I'm in charge of. But I'm gonna let someone else do it though. So, do you want to put the prep in?
Sure.
Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to take half of what's in here.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be perfect.
Okay.
But just take half of it and put it in that north hole.
Okay. Yes.
And then the other half is going to go in
The top.
the top. Yeah. And so we need
Mix these
503.
503.
Okay. Yeah, we can mix all of them together for sure.
Does anybody want to do dandelion? Feels called by 506.
Ooh. May I?
Yeah.
No, please.
Okay, so 503 is gonna go
You should go together.
in this east hole here. So put half of it in that east hole. And then Garrett, do you have a 504?
No, I've got 5.
Oh, okay.
I got 504.
Okay. Let's take that one.
Cool.
Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you. So Garrett, I'm gonna have you put the nettle prep
Okay.
in the middle. Since that is
I'm
the
honored.
heart preparation.
You guys find some old worn bricks.
Yeah, I don't know where those came from. They were here when I got here.
Sometimes those old bricks, that's probably right.
I've got stashes on my stack. They're waiting for projects.
Okay.
I know.
And then the 505 is gonna go, who wants to do 505? That's the oak bark.
505.
Yeah.
All right, so 505, isn't your farm that way?
Yeah.
So that's perfect, because you're gonna put that in the south hole.
Love that.
And just put half of what's in that jar in the hole, and the other half will go in the top. And then if you want to put that 506 in that west hole over there, just half of it.
That's where Hawaii is, right, Jason?
Well, it's where my farm is.
And when you're working with your preparations and doing something like this, it's a good meditation to just be setting your intention for your farm, because that's gonna give everything memory. Even if it's not said out loud, you can say it out loud and just say what you want, what you're looking for. Give reverence to the tribes that were here before us. Give reverence to your ancestors. If you can say a prayer, but really set in your intentions for growth, for your plants, and for your soil. I think that's whatever your avenue of spirituality is, you can bring that in. And just to be reverent with it when you're doing this kind of thing. Don't be drinking or smoking a cigarette or doing any of that kind of stuff when you're stirring your preparations and spraying them out, because you're putting your intention. When you're going to spray this out, or when you're putting this compost out, you can set your intention with that. You can put your energy into that, and that's going to reverberate out, and especially with the spray preparations.
Can I double down on that?
Absolutely, yeah.
I chose to wear this shirt today, but I wore it for this moment because I wanted to call attention to, so keep the culture in agriculture. To me, I looked up the etymology of the root cult. And, we think of like a religious cult or something. We think of the word culture, horticulture, all of that. Cult really means to praise or revere. A culture is an agreed upon set of beliefs or belief system. And agri, the root is field. And so agriculture literally translates to praise or to revere the field. And I think in this modern day of industrial agriculture, a lot of that deference for the field and the life forms that we inhabit this planet with is lost in a lot of those production models. And I think biodynamics presents this really beautiful lens for re-engaging with that praise. And I think to set your intention and to be intentional and conscious and present, not just when you're doing the prep work, but especially when you're doing the prep work. But I try to bring that consciousness and intention into this practice of farming. And so, I wanted to just double down on that thought, on that intention, that to be reverent in this act.
reverent, mindful, loving.
Yeah.
You know, this is something that we're doing to better the planet that we all rely on and live with. So having that mindset when you're doing this, try to not be angry when you're doing it, try to have good thoughts when you're doing it, and just bring your full mindful self to this. Method of India, they've made it legal for you to use cow parts in India now for making preparations. It's starting to get really big in the Philippines, China, Brazil. It's starting up in Africa. It's big in Ireland, England. Australia. So Australia, yeah, huge. In America, we just have this very much a materialistic mindset, and so bringing in this kind of spiritual agriculture has been sort of poo-pooed as woo-woo. But then now, again, we have some science to back up what we're doing, and we can have intention with it and bring in whatever we want with it, really with our spiritual self. But again, when you start eating the food and drinking the wine and the cider and the, all the aspects with that nutrition that you're getting from this, then, again, your mind can be a little more clear, you make better choices, we do better for ourselves and for the planet when we're doing this. So. And then we'll just, whoever wants to get in there and cover up the holes, we'll cover those holes up and we'll spray the layering preparation
Eric, would
around.
you mind doing that? Or Joy, whatever, with your poopy hands.
So then this preparation is to fix phosphorus, but it's also warming and protective. And so then we're just gonna, and I let it go around the pit as well, especially in this case because we're doing 4 units.
What a truly wonderful event that was. I felt personally moved by the lessons and the wisdom that Marjory shared with me. Been a biodynamic practitioner for 10 years, and still I learned novel ways to make barrel compost and new ways to think about applying these preparations on our biodynamic vineyard and farm. And there were other more novice practitioners there at the event as well, and many of them shared with me how moving and insightful the whole experience was, not just about farming and about prep making and about rhythms, but also about their own spiritual and emotional development, to gather like-minded, big-hearted people who are really interested in making an impact in our community and a benefit to the environment. I know that this is just the beginning. This is the first of many events that we'll host here at Troon, and I hope that you'll join us for the next one.